My name is Claire Bennett, and I was 19 years old when my life turned upside down. I had just started my sophomore year at Sterling University, an elite liberal arts college nestled in the hills of Vermont. I was a strata student majoring in biomedical engineering with a quiet social life and a part-time job at the university's research lab. I didn't party. I didn't date. I stayed focused, sharp, and out of drama. But drama doesn't need an invitation. Sometimes it moves into your home. It all started the week my sister Julia and her husband, Mason, moved into our family house in Connecticut. I hadn't seen Julia in nearly a year, not since her rushed wedding to Mason, a man none of us knew very well but who had money, charm, and that polished lawyer look women seemed to fall for it too easily. Julia had called my parents a few weeks earlier saying they were having temporary financial issues and needed a place to stay for a few months. Mom, of course, said yes. She always said yes to Julia. My parents were the type who believed that the eldest child could do no wrong. Julia had always been the golden girl's straight teeth, model looks, and a natural charisma that made people orbit around her. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one. The one who read books in corners and spent summers in science camps. When they arrived, everything changed. A strange kind of welcome Mason was taller than I remembered, square-jawed, and carrying himself like he owned every room he entered. His suits were perfectly tailored, even though he claimed he had been laid off from his corporate law firm. Julia greeted me with a tight hug, the kind of smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. The first few days were fine, mostly polite. Julia helped around the house, Mason worked from his laptop in the living room, and I kept to my room or the campus library. I tried to stay invisible, but Mason had a way of noticing me. And that's when things got weird. He started making offhand comments. "You're really growing up, Claire," he said once in the kitchen. "College has done wonders for you." I forced a smile, brushing it off. Another time, he leaned in too, close when reaching for the orange juice, his hand grazing my lower back for a little too long. It sent a chill down my spine. At first I thought I was being paranoid, misreading things. But then it escalated. Lines crossed one evening. I came home late from the library. The house was dark except for the light in the den. I peeked inside and saw Mason on the couch shirtless, holding a glass of whiskey, watching TV, burning the midnight oil again. He said, I nodded awkwardly. "Yeah, finals." He patted the cushion next to him. "Take a break. Sit down. You're always working too hard." I declined and walked toward the stairs, but he followed me. At the landing, he said it. "Clear as day, you know," he murmured. "If you ever want someone to talk to or anything else, I'm around." Stood frozen, disgusted, my heart hammering in my chest. I didn't reply. I ran upstairs and locked my bedroom door. The confession that backfired the next morning. I told Julia everything. Word for word. She stared at me, silent, and then laughed, double quotes, Claire. She said, "Do you realize how jealous and delusional? You sound jealous." I repeated, stunned. "Mason is loyal. He's never even looked at another woman, let alone you." Her tone was venomous now. "You're young, pretty, and probably craving attention. But this, accusing my husband, that's low." I tried to defend myself, but it was like talking to a wall made of steel and mascara. That evening, she told my parents, and that's when the real nightmare began. Thrown out, they cornered me in the dining room like a firing squad, Claire. "My mother said we've raised you better than this." "I'm telling the truth," I cried. "Mason, he's been making passes at me since he got here." But they'd already made up their minds. Julia had always been the victim in every story. I was painted as the jealous little sister with a flair for drama. My father didn't say a word, just walked away an hour later. My mother came into my room with a cardboard box. "I think it's best if you stay with a friend or at your dorm for now," she said, not meeting my eyes, so I left alone, betrayed, and for the first time in my life, homeless. A taste of Carme week passed. Then, too, I lived in a friend's basement on an inflatable mattress, still going to classes, still working my job. I didn't tell anyone what had happened. Shame doesn't like company. But then an email it was from the University Honors Program. Congratulations, Claire. You've been awarded the Northbridge Biomedical Excellence Scholarship. $300,000 over the next 3 years, covering full tuition, research grants, and international study. My hands were shaking. A breath caught in my throat. I forwarded the email to my professor to confirm it wasn't a scam. It wasn't. I had one dot suddenly. Everything changed. 2 days later, my phone started blowing up. Missed calls from my mom. Then texts, Claire, honey, we're so proud of you. Julia told us the good news. Come home, let's talk. Can't wait to celebrate. Celebrate? The same people who threw me out without a second thought were now desperate to get me back. Mason even sent me a message. Congratulations, Claire. Always knew you had it in you. Let's catch up soon. Diner's on me. I didn't respond. Instead, I started planning. They wanted me back. Good. Let them chase, let them beg, because I wasn't the same girl they threw out. I was a $300,000 woman now with a memory, like a steel trap, and had nothing left to lose. Asterisk, asterisk, I didn't reply to their messages. Not yet. Let them sweat. Let them feel the silence they threw me into. I kept my distance for another week. Going to classes, working at the lab, and answering every congratulatory email from the university like a queen accepting her royal flowers. It felt surreal. People who never noticed me before were suddenly smiling in the halls. Professors nodded with pride. My lab supervisor offered me my own research assistant. I had the power now, and for once I wasn't afraid to use it, but the calls didn't stop. My mom left a dozen voicemails, each more desperate than the last. Claire, it's your father's birthday this weekend. Everyone's asking about you. Honey, let's put everything behind us. Mason and Julia feel terrible about the misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Is that what we're calling sexual? Harassment now? Oh, the return I didn't plan on going home. But when Julia herself sent me a voice note, I changed my mind. Claire, she said, her tone sweet as syrup. I know I overreacted. You're my little sister, and I love you. Come over. We can start fresh. Mason's willing to talk to. Willing to talk. Like he was doing me the favor. Still, I agreed, but not to forgive. I was going back for one reason only, to reclaim my place and make them squirm while I did. I dressed sharp that Saturday. Black jeans, blazer, lipstick, sharp enough to cut glass. Not my usual style, but intimidation had become a tool in my belt. I arrived at the house around noon. Julia opened the door, smile plastered on, nerves leaking through her eyes. Claire, she gasped, pulling me into a hug like nothing had happened. Inside, the living room was freshly cleaned. There were pastries on the table, scented candles burning. And Mason standing in the corner with a whiskey he pretended not to drink until 5 p.m. My parents were already seated. My mom beamed when she saw me. We're so glad you came. She said we really are. The showdown I sat, crossed my legs, tilted my head. Mason cleared his throat. Claire, I want to apologize. I realize some of my behavior may have come off wrong. Come off wrong. Oh, he was still dancing around it. I looked him dead in the eye. You didn't come off wrong. You were trying to sleep with your wife's teenage sister. Silence. Julia's face went white dot. My dad stiffened. My mom fidgeted with her bracelet. Claire, Mason started. No, you don't get to rewrite history just because I'm valuable now. You touched me. You whispered things you shouldn't have. And when I told the truth, you let her throw me out. He opened his mouth again, but this time I raised my hand to cut him off. You said you wanted to talk. Now listen. The power. Shift, I'm not coming back to live here, I said calmly. I have my own life now. My own place soon. But I am going to take back what you tried to steal from me, my dignity. I stood. You can keep your lies. I'll keep my $300,000. And my future. Julia looked like she was on the edge of tears. Claire, please, I didn't know. I was scared. Scared of what? That your perfect little marriage was a lie. I laughed coldly. Or that your meal ticket was looking at someone younger. My mom tried to speak, but I cut her off too. And you, Mother, you packed my things. You believed them over me. Don't act surprised now that the daughter you discarded is the one making headlines. There was nothing left to say. I walked out and I didn't look back. A new world 2 weeks passed. I signed a lease on a small off-campus apartment, paid for by my first installment of scholarship funds. It wasn't luxury, but it was mine every square foot a reminder that I earned this. Word about the scholarship had spread. The dean invited me to speak at a university panel. The alumni network started reaching out, including one woman doctor, Miranda Colburn, a biomedical genius with over a dozen patents who offered to mentor me personally. Smart girls like you, she said over Zoom, don't just rise, they fly. I felt something bloom in me that day, a quiet, blazing confidence. I wasn't just surviving anymore, I was winning. But they wouldn't let go. Then came the kicker. A letter in the mail, handwritten, sloppy dot from Julia Claire. I know you probably hate me, and you have every right to. I was blind. I chose Mason over my own blood. But things have gotten bad. He's not the man I thought he was. He's changed, drinking more, shouting, staying out late. I think he cheated on me. I need someone. I need you. Please, can we talk? Julia, I stared at the letter for a long time. So now the mask was slipping, and suddenly, I wasn't the enemy anymore. Was her lifeline typical? But a wicked idea began to take root. What if I did go back? Not to live, but to investigate, to expose, to dismantle everything Mason built. On lies and lust. Because sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge. Sometimes it wears lipstick and carries a grudge. Asterisk. Julia's letter burned in my bag for days. I didn't respond. Not yet, but I did screenshot it. Stored it in a cloud folder labeled Redemption or Revenge. Because this wasn't just about sisterhood anymore. It was about finally flipping the script. If Julia was cracking, it meant the image was starting to crumble. And if Mason had other skeletons in his closet, I'd be the one to drag them into the light. So I replied, let's meet neutral ground somewhere public. She agreed instantly. We chose a quiet coffee shop near the lake, the kind with vintage lights and violin music whispering through the air. Julia arrived 10 minutes early, hair tied back, face pale, wedding ring missing. The once flawless older sister I envied now looked haunted. The confession: she didn't waste time, Claire, she said, voice shaking. I need your help. I don't know what to do. Could start by telling the truth. Her eyes filled with tears. I should have believed you. I did believe you deep down, but I was scared. I thought if I admitted it, my whole life would collapse. Instead, you chose to destroy mine. I know, she whispered, and I hate myself for it. I stayed silent, letting her stew in that guilt a little longer. She leaned in, whispering like we were in some mafia movie. He's seeing someone else. I found texts, pictures, a hotel receipt in his coat pocket. Who is she? I don't know yet. My eyebrows arched. So you want me to find out? She nodded. He's careful now, keeps things locked up. He changed passwords. But you're smart, Claire. You always were. And just like that, she was asking me to be her spy. The game begins. I didn't say yes. Not right away. I made her. Sweat just like they made me beg. But I started digging. It's quietly tossed. First, I looked at Mason's social media ghost town. Classic cheater move. Then I scanned through Julia's phone with her permission. Nothing recent. No contact names that stood out. But in her email drafts, there was one unsent message. Just a few lines written weeks ago. To Amanda, subject. Apartment lease if you still need help paying rent. Mason said he'll handle it. Just don't tell anyone we spoke. J. Amanda. That wasn't a name I recognized, but it was a crack in the armor. The visita, a few days later, casually stopped by the old house under the guise of picking up some childhood boxes. My parents weren't home. Julia let me in. Mason was there, sitting in the kitchen, looking smug. Whiskey in hand, as always. He looked me up and down. Didn't expect you back so soon. I shrugged. Didn't expect your marriage to fall apart either. But here we are. His smirk dropped. Still have that sharp mouth, he muttered. Still can't keep it in your pants? His nostrils flared. Watch it. No, you watch it, I hissed, stepping closer. Because next time, it won't just be Julia who knows what you are. Got enough dirt to bury you in your designer shoes. He stood, towering over me. But I didn't flinch. You think your little scholarship makes you powerful? He growled. You don't know how the world works. Claire, I smiled sweetly. No, Mason, you don't. Enter Amanda a week later. Founder. Amanda Row 22 barista. Instagram full of yoga, selfies, crystals, and, oddly enough, wine bottles, labeled with the same brand Mason kept in our old house. One DM and a bit of fake bonding later. We met up. She thought I was just another one of his jealous exes. I mean, yeah, Mason's married, but he said it's more of a business marriage, you know? Amanda giggled. He said his wife knows, that they have an arrangement. I kept my face neutral. He ever show you pictures of her? Amanda laughed again. Nope, but he said she's cold, controlling. Honestly, I feel bad for him sometimes. Poor guy seems so trapped. Trapped. Mason had turned Julia into the villain now. Brilliant and sick. Amanda leaned forward. You think he's cheating on me too? I bit my tongue before laughing. Honey, the setup Julia and I had one goal. Now expose Mason. Not just to each other, to everyone. So we set a trap. Amanda agreed to invite, Mason to her apartment on Friday night. Julia and I would be nearby. Recording, watching, the plan was risky, but if it worked, game over. The trap is sprung. Friday night came. I sat in the car across the street with Julia, her hands trembling on the steering wheel. I had my phone out, voice memos recording. My laptop hooked to a wireless mic Amanda had hidden under her couch. We watched as Mason entered the building, smiling like a man with nothing to lose. But he did have something to lose. His career, his marriage, his image. Julia clenched her jaw. I want him to suffer? I nodded. He will. Inside the apartment, Amanda was doing her part, asking innocent questions. Pushing him to talk, Mason poured drinks. You ever been in love? She asked. He laughed. Love's a joke. People just want comfort. Control. What about your wife? She doesn't ask questions. As long as the money flows. And your sister-in-law? Silence. Then he chuckled. Claire, she wanted it. Girls like that always pretend they're victims, but they're just waiting to say yes. Julia gasped beside me, and I hit record. The audio recording was more than just proof. It was a weapon. And Julia. She wasn't just ready to use it, she needed to. I watched her face as we replayed it in the car. Mason's voice sliding from smug to sinister, like a mask being ripped. Off, he really said that? She whispered. I told you. I know you did. Her eyes were glassy, but steel strong. And I ignored you. I let him poison my own blood because I was too scared to face the truth. Now, she wasn't scared. She was furious. The first fallout Julia didn't confront Mason right away. No, she did what Mason never expected. She lawyered up. With the help of a sharp attorney friend from her university days, she quietly began divorce proceedings, froze joint accounts, changed passwords, took control of the house's deed which she'd stupidly signed over to him months ago, but hadn't yet filed. Then she sent Mason a simple email. Subject, you're served. We're done. I know everything. Consider this your only warning. Walk away peacefully, or I go public. The reaction. Explosive. The confrontation, he stormed into Julia's temporary apartment 2 days later while I was hiding in the next room. Pepper spray tucked into my coat pocket, just in case. You think you can ruin me? Mason hissed. Julia didn't. Flinch, you ruined yourself. I made you, he sneered. You wouldn't have had half of what you do without my connections. She smiled. Cool, composed. Correction, you used my credentials to climb. I lowered myself for you. He slammed a fist into the wall. I'll take you down with me. She slid her phone across the table. Go ahead, but I'll take your confession to your employer, your clients, your mother who, by the way, still thinks I'm the problem. He blinked, then laughed. You wouldn't. Oh, I already did, she said, sweet as syrup. Boom, game set. Match. The social funeral Mason's career unraveled faster than his fake charm. Amanda. She went full savage, dropping screenshots of every conversation, every lie, every promise he made. Julia's lawyer leaked the audio anonymously to a local news blog. Within 48 hours, it went viral. One clip stood out. Girls like that always pretend they're victims. They're just waiting to say yes. Spread like wildfire. Mason's law firm dropped him. Sponsors pulled back. Clients canceled contracts, and the cherry on top. His mother showed up at Julia's door, eyes red. I'm so sorry, she said. He told me you were cold, distant. That Claire was Julia interrupted. Liar. She nodded. Julia handed her the flash drive. You deserve to hear the truth, too. The healing after, everything after, the hell, the gaslighting. The exile went back home. Not the house I grew up in. Not the old rooms full of pain. No. I got my own place. It wasn't big. It's just a small apartment near the university. But it was mine. Julia helped decorate it. We hung up prints of sunflowers and skylines, lit candles that smelled like cinnamon and coffee, and shared wine on the floor like teenagers trying to restart their sisterhood. Why didn't I believe you sooner? She asked one night. I looked. At her, older, wiser, humbled. Because the truth is hard to hold when it shatters your entire world. She wiped her eyes. I'm proud of you, Claire. It was all I needed. The graduation, the scholarship money helped me finish my degree with honors. And on graduation day, I walked across the stage wearing a white dress and a quiet smile. In the crowd, Julia, my parents, even Amanda, who'd become a weird sort of friend. Not Mason. He was gone, out of our lives. Off the map. Rumor had it, he'd moved out of state, changed his name, tried starting over somewhere new. But your past has a funny way of following you, especially when the internet never forgets. Final scene. The letter months later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address. It's just a folded page. Claire, I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I've lost everything. And maybe I deserve to. I wish I had been the man people thought I was. Me read it once, then again, then tossed it into the fireplace. He wasn't the man people thought he was. Okay? But I was the woman he underestimated. Epilogue. People like Mason don't just fall. Implode. And girls like me, we rise from the ashes. I didn't just survive the worst betrayal of my life, I owned it. And I wasn't a victim anymore. I was my own damn hero. Asterisk. The end.